Something worthy of the future she's building, Dad announced as he dropped a set of keys into Vanessa's hand. Everyone exploded into cheers. I stood at the edge of my parents' driveway as my younger sister stared at the brand new SUV parked beneath the porch lights, a giant ribbon stretched across the hood. Phones came out. Mom hugged her. Dad looked like he'd just made the greatest investment of his life. Then Aunt Carol glanced at me. "And Nelly, what did you get?" The driveway went strangely quiet. Dad barely looked in my direction. Nelly knows New Year isn't about keeping score. A few people laughed awkwardly. I didn't. 3 months earlier, my parents had called me because they were short on their property taxes. I had transferred money from my savings without asking when they would repay me. Now I understood where I stood. I waited until everyone followed Vanessa inside, then found Mom and Dad alone in the kitchen. "Can I ask you something?" Mom sighed. "Please don't start tonight." "I'm not starting anything. You told me you were struggling. I helped you. But you bought Vanessa a new SUV. Mom folded her arms. "Your sister has worked hard." "So have I." Dad gave a short laugh. "Nelly, you're 27. You rent a little apartment, drive that old car, and you're still doing the same administrative job." I stared at him. "What does that have to do with treating your daughters equally?" "Everything." "Richard," Mom murmured, but she didn't stop him. Dad stepped closer. "Vanessa is going somewhere. We wanted to invest in that." "And me." His answer came instantly. "A loser can't be part of our family." For a moment, even Mom looked uncomfortable. Then she pointed toward the hallway. "Just go home, Nelly. Don't embarrass us in front of everyone." I picked up my coat. No shouting, no begging, no more explaining how many times I had quietly helped them when Dad's business was struggling. Outside, Vanessa was posing beside her SUV again. "Nelly," she called, "come take a picture with me." "I'm good." I climbed into the old car Dad had just mocked and drove home. That night, while emptying my purse onto the kitchen counter, a small folded piece of paper landed beside my keys. My lottery ticket. I had bought it earlier that week and almost forgotten about it. I left it there and went to bed. The next morning, I made coffee, opened the official winning numbers, and casually picked up the ticket. First number matched. Then the second. Third. Fourth. My hand stopped halfway to my coffee. I checked again. Then a third time. Every number matched. At the top of the results page were 4 words that made Dad's insult suddenly feel very far away. $2.5 million jackpot. So why was the daughter they had called a loser now holding the only winning ticket? I checked the ticket again. Then again. "No," I whispered. "There's no way." I entered the numbers through the official lottery information instead of trusting what I was seeing on the screen. Same result. My ticket appeared to be worth $2.5 million. My first reaction surprised me. I reached for my phone. Mom's name was right there. For years, whenever something important happened, good or bad, I called her. My thumb hovered over the screen. Then Dad's voice came back to me. "A loser can't be part of our family." I put the phone down. If I really had one, I wasn't giving them the chance to decide what happened next. I followed the official security instructions carefully. I signed the ticket, photographed it, secured it, and contacted the lottery authority to understand the claim process. That was when I learned something important. Winning wasn't as simple as showing up somewhere and walking away with millions. There were verification procedures, identification requirements, and documents to complete. Good. I wanted everything protected before anyone knew. Then my phone buzzed. Vanessa had posted pictures from the night before. There she was beside the SUV, holding the keys above her head. One caption caught my attention. "Grateful for parents who always reward hard work." I stared at it for 2 seconds. Then I opened our family group chat and left. That afternoon, my cousin called. Nelly, weird question. Didn't you buy a lottery ticket at that convenience store near your apartment? My stomach tightened. Why? They're saying the jackpot ticket was sold there. I've got to go. I ended the call. Less than an hour later, Mom called. Then Dad. Then Vanessa. None of them had been interested in talking to me that morning. Now my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Dad finally sent a message. Nelly, call me immediately. I looked at those words and made my decision. Mom blocked. Vanessa blocked. Dad blocked. Across town, Richard Carter stared at his phone, grabbed his car keys, and headed straight for my apartment. By the time Dad reached my apartment, I wasn't there. I was already meeting with professionals to make sure the winnings were protected and the claim was handled properly. When I finally returned, Dad was gone. But my parents had found another way to reach me. Aunt Carol called first. Nelly, your mother says there's been a terrible misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. She says you've cut everyone off over what happened on New Year. I almost laughed. 24 hours earlier, Mom had watched Dad tell me I couldn't be part of the family because I was a loser. Now that I might have $2.5 million, apparently we were a family again. Vanessa made it even more obvious. She posted online, money should never come between family. The same sister who had happily posed beside an expensive SUV while I stood empty-handed was suddenly giving lessons about money. Mom arranged a family gathering, and eventually I went, not to apologize, but because I was done letting them rewrite what happened. The moment I walked in, Dad changed his tone. Nelly, he smiled, come sit down, we need to fix this. You said I wasn't part of this family. I was frustrated. No, you were comfortable saying it because you thought I had nothing. Several relatives stopped talking. Dad's smile disappeared. Then he finally admitted what he actually wanted. His business had overdue obligations. And Vanessa's SUV. It wasn't paid for. It had been financed. We could stabilize everything, Dad said. You could invest some of the jackpot into my business and clear Vanessa's vehicle. Vanessa looked at me. It wouldn't even be that much for you now. There it was. They hadn't called me back because they missed me. They had already started spending my money in their heads. No. Dad blinked. Excuse me. I'm not paying for the SUV, and I'm not rescuing your business. His face hardened. I raised you for 27 years. And 3 months ago, I helped pay your property taxes. Yesterday. That still wasn't enough to make me family. I turned and walked toward my car. Dad followed me outside. Nelly. I kept moving. Then his voice changed. If you won't share that money willingly, don't expect us to just stand there and watch. I stopped for half a second. Then I got into my car and drove away. Because Dad thought he had just frightened me. What he had actually done was warn me. Dad's threat changed the way I handled everything. The original ticket stayed secured. Every important document was photographed or copied, and the professionals helping with my claim knew that relatives might try to interfere. By then, my identity and ticket information were already documented as part of the verification process. So when Mom called from an unfamiliar number several days later, I was careful. Nelly, please don't hang up. What do you want? You left some personal papers here. I just want to return them. I'm not coming to the house. After a long silence, she agreed to meet in a controlled setting. But Mom didn't arrive alone. Dad stepped out carrying an envelope. Vanessa was nearby too. Dad held the envelope up. Last chance. For what? To start acting like family. He demanded that I promise them a substantial share of the jackpot, money for his business, money toward the SUV, money to solve problems they had created before I ever won anything. No. Dad opened the envelope. Inside were copies of paperwork connected to my lottery claim. You think you're untouchable now? He walked toward a metal outdoor fire bowl. Richard, stop, Mom said, although she already had her phone raised. Dad dropped the papers inside and set them alight. If you want to treat us like strangers, he snapped, then you can lose the money like a stranger. Vanessa stared at the flames. Mom kept filming. I simply watched. Dad expected panic. Instead, I folded my arms. His expression changed. Why aren't you doing anything? Because you have no idea what you just burned. The winning ticket wasn't there. Neither were my secured originals. Those papers were replaceable copies. My ownership information had already been documented, and everything important was beyond his reach. More importantly, Dad had just acted on the threat he made after the family gathering. And this time, there was evidence. Vanessa rushed toward us. Dad, what did you do? I took out my phone and made the call I had prepared to make if they crossed the line. Dad looked down at the ashes. For the first time since New Year, he didn't look powerful. Then a voice came from behind him. Sir, we need to discuss exactly what you just destroyed. Dad turned around so quickly that he nearly knocked into the metal fire bowl. Mom lowered her phone. I didn't move. The papers curling into black ash looked dramatic, but they were useless to him. My actual winning ticket had already been secured, photographed, documented, and submitted through the proper verification process. The originals that mattered were nowhere near my parents. Dad had burned replaceable copies. And he had done it after threatening me. I thought those were the claim papers, Vanessa said. They were copies, I replied. Dad stared at me. You planned this. I protected myself. That distinction mattered. I hadn't set a trap for my parents. I had simply believed Dad when he warned me that they wouldn't stand there and watch if I refused to share the money. The documentation of his threat and his attempt to interfere was preserved. I made it clear that if the harassment continued, I would handle everything formally. That was when Mom's attitude changed. Nelly, please. She stepped toward me. We're your parents. Are you seriously going to abandon the people who raised you over money? I looked at her. Mom, this stopped being about money before I ever knew I had one. She went silent. On New Year, you watched Dad tell me a loser couldn't be part of this family. You told me to leave because you didn't want me ruining Vanessa's celebration. Dad looked away. You made that decision when you thought I had nothing, I continued. The jackpot didn't change what you believed about me. It changed what you wanted from me. Vanessa folded her arms. What am I supposed to do about the SUV? I looked at her. What do you mean? The payments. Dad said you could just pay it off. No. Her mouth fell open. Nelly, it's $2.5 million. And the SUV belongs to whoever signed the financing agreement, so do the payments. That was when Vanessa finally understood something I had discovered earlier. The SUV hadn't been proof that Mom and Dad were thriving. It had been financed while Dad's business was already carrying overdue obligations. They had spent money they didn't comfortably have to make Vanessa look successful, then expected my jackpot to clean up the consequences. It wasn't happening. My claim continued through verification. When everything was completed, the $2.5 million jackpot was officially mine, subject to the required deductions and claim rules. I didn't buy a mansion the next morning. I didn't show up at my parents' house in an exotic car. I met with qualified financial and legal professionals, cleared my own legitimate obligations, protected most of what remained, and created a plan that wouldn't turn one lucky ticket into a few reckless years. Meanwhile, Dad had to deal with his business obligations himself. The SUV payments continued. And the relatives who had called me selfish became noticeably quieter once they learned what Dad had said to me before anyone knew about the jackpot. Eventually, Mom and Dad stopped trying to contact me. Not because everything was forgiven. Because they understood that threats, pressure, and guilt would no longer give them access to me or my money. I replaced my unreliable old car with something dependable and moved into a comfortable home I could realistically maintain. But the biggest change wasn't something I purchased. It was the first new year of my adult life, when I stopped asking what I had to accomplish before my parents considered me worthy. Vanessa could keep the SUV. Dad could keep his opinion of success. Mom could keep pretending that what happened was a misunderstanding. I kept my boundaries, my independence, and the future they had decided I would never have. My parents called me a loser when they thought I had nothing, and when $2.5 million proved them wrong, I finally understood that the real prize wasn't the jackpot. It was realizing I never needed to buy my place in their family.